This was actually, I took this photo when I attended the Nangula Festival that Many Bombs hosted in Yarrawonga. They were awarded funds under the Community Impact Program last year, and the community, the region worked together absolutely sublimely to deliver the fantastic event that they held in October. And I really felt it was quite touching to be there. So there will be case studies on some of these projects, and this will be one of them. So just keep an eye out for that one. In quarterly webinar tradition, we'll run through a few different things. FRRR update. Beautiful Gemma from RLF is with us today to give a quick presentation on the Emerging Leaders Program. And we have some incredible communities that are delivering community showcases for us. So thank you so much to Katie and Thomas and Shelley from Tasmanian Leaders and Northern Slopes Landcare Association for agreeing to showcase your projects to the rest of the group. There's been some amazing stuff come through in the reporting that you've provided and the conversations that we've had. So we're really pleased to be able to host you to share that information with the team. And then we'll wrap up with final questions at the end. So in a quick FRRR update for everybody. Where are we now? So progress reports are in for most community impact grants. Thank you so much for everyone who jumped on that so quickly. We've, hand on heart, I have to say, this process has actually been making my heart sing, just hearing some of the incredible stuff that you guys are doing in your communities. Thank you for being the leaders that you are in your communities and showing such care and dedication to where you all live. It really is inspiring. A lot of projects are getting to the point now where they're starting to ramp up activity early in the new year and extra promotion. So we have actually developed a media tip sheet that is available on the FRRR website, but we'll also send it through to you in the presentation. It is available through the link on this slide. A quick update. Now, as you know, have been super busy connecting with you guys and communities all across the country. The midterm evaluation report is now publicly available. You can get that through the FRRR website on the Helping Regional Communities Prepare for Drought page. It's also embedded in this presentation for you too. So some really great learnings. Thank you so much to everyone that's participated in that, the candour that everybody's shown and the honesty. It has really helped us mould and rethink and reshape how we deliver the program. So we're grateful to NOUS for being that conduit to get that information. So also great to see some really nice impacts and benefits being delivered in community by you as program participants and grant recipients. So thank you so much again for what you do in your communities. Final reporting. So final reports are all available now. To get to them is through the FRRR website and your Grants Gateway account. If you go onto the website, top right-hand corner, click on login, and once you've entered in all your credentials, it'll take you straight through to the pages. So the requirement is a final report. So you can go in and have a look and have a look at what that looks like now, so that you can get a better picture of what it is that you'll be asked to provide when you do actually come to acquit your grant. So, and for those of you who already have acquitted, thank you. We're seeing some really good stuff come through, and keep the photos coming. They're terrific. They really help us paint the picture and tell the story. And last but not least from me, as I mentioned before, real briefly, we are actually starting to develop some case studies of some of the work that you are doing in your communities. We have been going through reports and identifying, organisations that we want to reach out to and help share your story. But we'd be really keen to hear from you guys on some of the things that you on your projects, and if if you want us to showcase it, even if you just not really sure, send it through. Like, let me know. Reach out to myself or Alicia, and or anyone from the team actually, and we can go from there, because we'd love to hear from you as well, but also having any chats to see anything else that there might be that you might think might be of value to go into those stories. So reach out, let us know. So from here, I will hand over to the wonderful Gemma. Thanks, Gem. And Gem will give everyone a quick update.
Thanks, Fee. And I'm not actually going to talk to you too long, because you've all heard from me all year, and I'm guessing you're really sick of me this year, harassing you all. But I just wanted to do a really quick wrap up before I hand over to my beautiful colleague, Melissa, who I'm going to introduce in a sec. And we also have another staff member joining us, has just joined us and working through the rest of 2025 with us next year. So I'd like to introduce her as well. But just really quickly, I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you. Well, what a year. Can you believe it? We're at the end of the year. What we've all accomplished this year has just been like mind-blowing. Like I have tingles every time I think about what we've all accomplished together. And we just want to say a really big thank you on behalf of the ARLF to you all, our lead organisations, our project partners, what you've done, what the guidance and the support and the dedication that you have given us, the local intel. We're so grateful and inspired by you and your communities and your change makers, and look forward to delivering the rest of the project in 2025. We will focus a little bit more on some more intense programs next year in some of the regions, and that's why I've asked my beautiful colleague Melissa to jump on today and give a little bit of a focus on our emerging leadership program that we ran a couple of months back in the Mallee region. But just a really quick update, we have delivered in 27 regions. Unbelievable. We've wrapped up delivery of workshops in 10 regions. So looking forward to going back and hearing some stories from those regions. And we've 8 regions yet to deliver in. So we're really working in a lot of those regions, and our focus as soon as we come back from our Christmas break, we're straight into those regions. So that's just a little bit of a brief update on where the RLF are at. I'd really love to introduce our new colleague, Catherine Davidson. Catherine Davidson's actually been with our organisation but shifted into our team as a project lead. So we are going to be under the guidance of Catherine Davidson next year, and as of now and into the remaining future of this part, phase 2, and we look forward to working with her. Catherine, did you just want to say a quick hello? Is she there?
Sorry, I've been on mute and just hiding in the background, but hi. I'm here. Thank you, Gemma. And so nice to see you.
Someone's at the airport.
Yeah.
Thanks, Catherine. And I'd also
really nice to see everyone.
Catherine, I'll get Catherine to do a really big presentation for you all next year. We'll throw her in the deep end. And I'd really like to just throw over now to my other colleague, Melissa, who some of you might have already met. She's our gun facilitator. She's our manager of learning. And I've just asked her to pop on and give a little bit more of a showcase on our 5-day emerging leadership program, which we're actually delivering in a couple of regions next year, as well as a community leadership program. So this is a real step up from the change maker, and we've been receiving that feedback that you all the regions are really hungry for more. The change maker has provided a really amazing stepping stone into more leadership development, and these are the programs that we'll be offering more next year and into the future. And I just thought it'd be really great that Mel could jump on and just showcase the emerging leaders that happened in Mallee during the year. So I'll hand it over to you, Melissa, and if she's there.
Thank you,
there she is.
Thanks so much, Gemma. Thanks, Fee, and thanks, FRRR, for having us along today for this little bit of update. And I might just start with a video. Kelly, I think you might have the controls running there. If you can click that link for us, and we'll all cross our fingers. It's just a 1-minute video, because I think a picture shows 1,000 words, and I'll be back with you. Thank you for the AV and tech support there, Kelly and team. So the Emerging Leaders Program or Community Leaders Program that we're running in a few different regions is based on a 5-day program, although a lot of the time we're delivering it as 2 sessions of 2.5 days with a month's break in between. So this program is a wonderful opportunity, as Gemma said, for people that have had a taster through a Changemaker program and are looking for what's the next step to develop their leadership skills and their confidence. So building on some of the Changemaker content, or people coming direct into a community or emerging leader program, it's really more of a focus on personal development and professional development rather than the Changemaker, which is looking more at the technical process of change and how to develop skill sets in that. This is a broader program where we get the chance to go a lot deeper with people to unpack and understand where they're at in their current leadership skills, what are the ways that they can really improve that. So there's a lot around self-awareness as an individual, and then working with the team of people, building the network, but also building the ability to get that feedback and support with other people in the group. So it's a stepping stone, I guess, to some of the bigger, longer programs that the Australian Rural Leadership Foundation is known for, like our full 15-month program. But we've really designed this to be something that is able to take people at an emerging level in their leadership development. So it's less about a particular age group, but a mindset and a skill set. So for us, we're looking for people that are ready to take that next step or have recently stepped into new roles and positions or are looking to do so. So people that are looking for a bit more support and to really accelerate where they're up to. And a lot of that is based on building their awareness of where they are at now. So happy to take questions on the program, but also post-meeting we can very much share some information about the content in the program. If anyone's got any questions, though, happy to address them now or leave them for later.
Thanks, Mel. We might can we leave questions for the end of the session? So if you've got something in mind, either pop it in the chat or hang on to it for a minute or two so that we'll go through the community showcases and then we can just have a group chat at the end before we wrap up. So thanks so much, Mel. And it has been really good. I was in the Mallee a few weeks ago and there is an absolute buzz and hoping to have ARLF back out again with more changemakers out in Wentworth. So stay tuned. Gemma and the team will keep everyone updated once everything's sorted. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce Katie and Thomas from Tasmanian Leaders. Their DRIP program was funded under Community Impact Program and has been absolutely kicking really good goals. So, so over to you guys.
Thanks, Fee. So Tom and I are going to chat through the program and particularly some of the outcomes. We're representing Ange Driver today, who is being a mum today. So hopefully we can do as good a job as Ange would have presenting this beautiful program. This is our group of leaders that we brought into the Drought Resilience and Preparedness Program. And we were in Icena, which is in the northeast of the state in Tasmania. And I'll talk a little bit more about Richard, who's the person on the far right behind me with the blue hair. And Richard was our owner of our farm that really, him and his wife Fee, just lent in and really held this incredible bunch of human beings for 4 days, which was amazing. So thanks, Fee. I'll get you to move forward. So a little bit about Tas Leaders. We run a penultimate program that each year that is a 12-month program for Tasmanian leaders. I'm one of the facilitators. We have 4 that facilitate the program. That's a mix of residential and linking sessions as well as project work. And it was delightful to be able to be a part of the alumni network and bring Tom in to do this work, who happens to be a graduate of Tasmanian Leaders Program as well. We are predominantly, the flagship program is predominantly state government funded, but it's also a open enrolment program. So I'll get you to share the next slide. Thanks, Fee. But we're really here to talk about the DRIP program. So the Drought Resilience Impact Preparedness Program, which is really about empowering individuals in drought-affected Tasmanian communities to prepare, respond and recover from drought social impacts in particular. And we wanted to really push the boundaries of what we could do in 4 days in the middle of rural Tasmania. So we looked at using future thinking and scenario planning, which is my background, as well as expert insights from both Tom and Lissa, to really bring a sense of connectedness, a sense of practical skills, and a real connection to place. And part of the ways that we did that were through our recruitment. Thanks, Fee. Slide forward. So our recruitment was very much about partnering with Regional Development Australia Tasmania and their regional development coordinators in the north and northwest. We equipped them to go out to their relationships, out to their businesses, out to their organisations that they support and engage with, to recruit some really incredible young people as well as experienced people into the program. One of the really key components of our program was to ensure that we were building relationships with the appropriate Tasmanian Palawa group, both through individuals and with one of our Aboriginal corporations, which is Melathina Tiakana Warana. And particularly what was beautiful was that we were able to directly interact with a group called the Tropicana Rangers, who are working actively with farmers and on reserved land to restore and renew the land based on traditional or contemporary land management, Aboriginal land management processes, which was amazing. We reached out and set up a stall at AgFest, which was wonderful, which we actually partnered with the Regional Drought Resilience Coordinator, of which the Northern Coordinator was developing her outreach from a community engagement perspective. And Lissa, who was the Southern Coordinator, actually joined us as a Tas Leaders graduate during our program of delivery, which was also fantastic. So we had 20% Tasmanian Aboriginal or Palawa people on the program. We had 67%, to be specific, that were from agriculturally dependent communities, both working on the land or supporting people who do. More than half were below 37, and we had 9 local government areas out of a possible 17 in that region. Which was super exciting. And I think we had everything from a just 19-year-old through to somebody who is in his mid to late 60s in retirement that was a pharmacist in a rural region. So it was beautiful to have such a breadth of experience and, just a delight that there was sharing of learnings. And it was both ways. It wasn't a one-way experience, which was fantastic. Thanks, Fee. I'll get you to move forward to the next slide. The actual program elements were myself led a session on introducing adaptive leadership and the elements around being an adaptive leader in community. We did a couple of different futures activities, one of which was creating 4 potential future stories for the Northeast Tasmania that they could participate in co-creating that storytelling. It also called out the challenges that they would face as leaders in those communities under those 4 different potential futures. It was playful. It was we really spend quite a bit of time outside and getting them to really interpret from the land what the impacts and consequences of those different futures might be. And then they played them back to each other and really engaged in some sort of understanding around, I think the unitive outcome was that they all agreed that social community connection was the one thing that was going to make a difference, regardless of where the future actually was headed or what potential future came above us, which was a beautiful moment in the program. Tom, who is our climate scientist, focused on resilience, mitigation and adaptation, and it was a deeply moving and emotional experience for them to really genuinely understand the implications of where we were headed from a land perspective, and that they had the ability to take that strength-based approach to using assets that could really significantly shift how we responded, which was excellent. As I said, Lisa Villeneuve, who is a TAS Leaders graduate as well, supported all of the sessions. She's has a resilience specialty and a background, and just really help support that mitigation and adaptation and sense making of our debrief sessions. We had a wellbeing session that followed those two pretty meaty and quite deep sessions. So Lauren from Rural Alive and Well came and talked about managing your mental wellbeing and developing supports around how you can stay resilient when you're leading really big conversations like what they were having. And then we kicked off the program with a tour of Icena Farm, which Richard was in the first picture. Richard is the managing director of Ashgrove Cheese, which is a huge Tasmanian brand, but he also runs an incredible working farm for his, particularly for his calving. But we also looked at an incredible way that he had adapted and had built a new dam. It was an old eucalypt forest, managed forest, thinned out the eucalypt in order to make the farm, as beautiful and rich an environment as possible. And saw lots and lots and lots of wildlife as we were wandering around, which was fantastic. We then did a cultural awareness session with the Malathina Tiakanawarana and Arnie Patsy Cameron. I've still got my rope that we were all fortunate to be able to learn and understand the uses for. Really beautifully, the Tropicana Ranger boys, that the three young men that joined us on the program, helped facilitate a gift of a local plant that was appropriately gendered for the women and appropriately gendered for the male, which was a really beautiful exploration of those different roles in community that Tasmanian Aboriginal persons play. We've had 3 webinars since then, so setting up initiatives for success, which is really about getting them to take their learnings into action. What's happening already in the communities with Lisa, where we had a few guest speakers from Sustainable Living Tasmania and TasFarm Innovation Hub. And then Tom did a deep dive into the Tasmanian State of the Environment report. So I'm going to stop there, and Fee, I'll get you to move forward to the next slide, and we're going to hear a little bit more about Tom.
Thanks, Katie.
Beautiful. I can hear you.
Yeah, you can hear me? Great. So, yeah, like we've sort of really started off with the whole program in terms of really understanding that kind of climate reality of where we were. And, when do we decide that it's no longer a drought and it's actually a change in climate is a really important lens to be putting over all of these things, particularly if you're talking about trying to build up social infrastructure, social resilience. If you think that it's going to finish, you'd apply a really different lens to if it's actually, this isn't going to stop. We have to actually start building ourselves in a different way and making significant adaptations and mitigations. So the program happened shortly after most of the significant droughts. So Tasmania has a big sash across it, which is like the strongest droughts on record that are directly related to the changing climate, increased evaporation rates, along with reduced rainfall, due to changing rainfall patterns. And so a lot of people were coming out of those those landscapes to this program. And so we made sure that we were sort of acutely aware of how sort of stressed they might be and how sensitive they could be to that kind of element at the time. They've been seeing significant, crop failures. I think most people on this call would be aware of the challenges that have been happening across King Island, particularly. And some of them were also deeply concerned about what this might mean for the landscapes that they go and sort of enjoy when they're not working. So, getting out into the forests, their rivers, and the like. And so that was a real challenge. They'd all experienced heightened mental stress, either as people supporting, as support of other people, or experiencing it themselves. And so it was, I think, we found that there was some feedback that it was nice for them to have an opportunity to talk about that with each other and share that experience. And having Rural Alive and Well present to sort of help sort of guide that there's another way to sort of address this post-program, or if something comes up in the future, was really important. And a lot of them really appreciated having that link. And of course, with all those things, there was that consideration of impacts of tourism. And one of the biggest ones is actually that when you have really dry landscapes, there's a much higher fire risk, and forests actually get shut down. So the biggest reason why people are coming to the region, that they're no longer able to actually utilize that or come in and join that. So that had impacts for some of those ancillary businesses like Airbnb or farm stays and the like. Next slide, please, Fee. So through the few days of the program, some really key outcomes of sort of things that people were aware of just the increased awareness that drought's only one sort of trigger of community impacts, and how they recognized, and Katie kind of mentioned it, that social infrastructure as a resource is great for all future types of impact. And so drought was a fantastic lens to put it through, because it's so systemic and it's long term, and it typically doesn't come on as like a big event. It's very slow and in some ways very insidious. So it's a great way of thinking about a problem and thinking about what sort of social infrastructure is required to really address these types of big systemic challenges. But then it was also able to bring in, like, what happens if it was a fire? What happens if it was a flood? And they were able to sort of see that actually, if we have this social infrastructure, it doesn't matter what the event is. We actually have built up some of the core elements we need. The wonderful and inclusive and very generous contributions from the Palua community, the Trebekana Rangers, bringing us onto their country, introducing us to some of their special places and giving us the reasons and backgrounds for that, including us in some of their cultural activities. I got heaps out of it. I haven't had a lot of interaction with the Aboriginal communities across Australia, and so I really found that was incredibly beneficial for myself as a facilitator, let alone what the whole group got out of it. And and I think it did actually help bring in that how connected the cohort was. It was quite amazing how rapidly they all sort of dropped in and were really willing to go deep into ideas and share. And I think having those people did there was really beneficial. We've been providing, as a feedback to the and ongoing support to the program, there's been resources that have been provided, and those have been shared out. Because we had connection with the drought resilience program in the state government, they were sort of able to feed those in, and sort of it's another impact pathway for them to make sure that certain resources were able to get fed out to key leaders across communities. They were really asked, like, how can we do something about it? And Katie's pulled together some workshops on how do you set up a project? How do you actually go about applying for money, and what does success look like? And as we mentioned, we've had 3 webinars over time. Next slide, please, Fee. So yeah, if you want to get in touch, please reach out to the Tasmanian Leaders Association. Have a look at the Drought Resilient Impact Preparedness Program, and yeah, reach out to any of us or to the team. Roz is always on hand, particularly to find out more, and we'd be happy to delve deeper if this wasn't enough.
Fantastic. Thanks so much,
Thank
Tom.
you.
Did anybody have any quick questions that they wanted to ask these guys? Not at the moment. Thank you so much for sharing. That was really, really good. I've got 2 pages of standouts, but just to keep it brief. I really love that that your cohort actually recognise that it's the social relationships and social connections that will support each other get through disruption. And I'm really, it's really good that you are able to apply that drought lens, because you're absolutely right. Thomas has just got such a slow creep. You guys all know that. I'm preaching to the choir. I don't need to talk about that. Yeah, so that was really good. But also as well, when you were talking about the different climate questions, when you were saying, when you kicked off, Tom, about, when do we start to think, is this drought or is it a different climate? I had a very similar conversation just this morning with a project partner in southwestern Victoria. So things are pretty dry down there. They've missed all the rain that we've had here in Victoria over the last few weeks. So, stories of shipping water in milk tankers into dams, not just into houses, but into dams as well. So, and for a region that's prolifically wet, that's a huge shift for those guys down there. So something that they're working their way through. And those resources that you mentioned too, would be really cool to have a look at them, if that's okay. If I can have a look at those and have a chat with Alicia. And yeah, so it'd be interesting to see, how we can share that as well amongst our community members. For your reference as well, on the FRRR website, if you go to community resources, there is a swag of information, the know and the how, about the same sort of stuff that you're presenting there. So if there's anything there that's helpful for you, feel free to share it and use it. So, but if nobody's got any other questions or comments for these guys, we might pass over to the wonderful Shelley from Northern Slopes Land Care in relation to the Upper Horton Ladies of the Valley project that was also funded under Community Impact Program for North West New South Wales. So over to you, Shelley.
Thanks, Fee. That's a pretty hard act to follow, Tom and Katie. That was a great presentation. Mine's a little bit shorter. But yeah, so I am a committee member of the Upper Horton Ladies of the Valley group, and also am involved with at the time was the coordinator for Northern Slopes Land Care Association, who auspiced the project under the Community Impact Program. Did you want to move forward a slide, Fee? So yeah, the Upper Horton Ladies of the Valley group came about back in 2021. Lindy Kennington, one of the local landholders around the Upper Horton area, invited a group of us together to have a chat about doing something for the women of the area, that she sort of recognised, and I think this might be on the next slide, that she recognised that through the drought there seemed to be a lot of support for men and for farming men and that sort of stuff, but a lot of the women that were kind of propping up the farmers or the men in a lot of cases were getting a bit overlooked and that sort of thing. So we got together to have a discussion about what could be done to support the women, and we wanted to run an event for women, no kids, no dogs, no men, and just have a bit of a get together and take all the pressure off for the weekend. So we might go to the next slide, I think. So what they decided to do was run a horsemanship weekend. A lot of this area, the women ride horses. Actually, I think I've done that one too. Can we skip to the next one? Sorry, Pete. Yep. Yeah, so we ran the first event in September, and we ran a few things in conjunction with the event. It was originally planned for April, and ironically, following the drought, it got rained out. So we just had the dinner, but and we also had, they had a ladies' sip, paint and sip as well. We ran a ladies' paint and sip. We had the dinner and we had the horsemanship weekend scheduled. So we had to postpone the horsemanship, obviously, but the dinner and the paint and sip still went ahead. And then in September, we held the first horsemanship clinic where we actually got a couple of local instructors that are very well performed in the area. And they also brought a friend along who was a psychologist, and so incorporated a bit of psychology and work into the weekend as well. So that one was relatively well received. I have to say that the psychology wasn't quite, I think it was a bit in your face for them. People just wanted to relax and ride horses and, you know, do horse stuff. So as far as the clinic went. So, but yeah, there was, on the whole, it was really well received. And so we wanted to run another one and try and make it an annual event. So you can flip to the next one, too. So the following year, the Community Impact Program came around, and we thought it fit the bill really well because it was building that social community. So we sought funding, and the funding actually covered the dinner. So it enabled the dinner to be free of cost to participants, and also allowed other women that don't ride horses to still be a part of the weekend and still get some benefit from getting together with their friends, and to come along for free as well. So we had a lineup of all female instructors for that one as well. So we had Sue Kirkby, Megan Hopkins, Heidi Smith, Lane Bennett and Marie Balmain, who were all very competitive, very well performing competitors in the camp draft world. We had 40 people book in. We had the 3-course dinner on the Saturday night. We had Marie Balmain come along as well. So that's on the next slide, I think. Sorry, I'm talking ahead of the slides a little bit. Challenges and solutions. So the biggest problem we had after running the first one, we sort of got a bit caught out by the requirements of the safety sort of thing. So that was probably our challenge, was to ensure that we had enough funding for the next one to cover the ambulance, which is required, and also locate an ambulance, because in a rural area, it's not that easy to, as many of you would know, it's not that easy to find ambulance services that will be available on the weekend that you want them to, and they are quite expensive. But yeah, in the end, we were quite lucky. We had some local businesses also come on board and that actually put their hand up to pay for the ambulance, which was wonderful. So yeah, we sort of had that support from the community as well. Yeah, rain is probably our biggest challenge, which is, yeah, again, ironic, but it's only stopped the first one. There's been 3 of these now run, and only that first one was affected by rain. The others have had, luckily, some very beautiful weather. We also followed feedback from the first event and increased the number of instructors so that we could split into 5 smaller groups, and everyone got a lot more individual one-on-one time with the instructors. So that was something we learnt from the first one as well. Yeah, so I might flip ahead there. Okay, we engaged a speaker for the dinner, Marie Balmain, and Marie is an incredible woman. She was diagnosed with advanced breast cancer and very aggressive breast cancer when she was, from memory, I think she was about 7 months pregnant with her second child. So she had to give birth and start chemo, basically. So she lived 600 kilometres from the nearest treatment centre. She was up in northwestern Queensland, so she had to drive 600 kilometres to Townsville to get her chemotherapy every week or however often she had to do it, and on her own, because her husband couldn't leave the farm. And so she was making these trips. You know, she's just incredible. So anyway, she survived the journey. So she was just sharing tips about methods she used. And the one that really stood out to me was how important it is to be in the moment, you know, like on those long drives. She wouldn't just tune out and be thinking about whatever else. She'd be looking around and, you know, taking in the scenery and really being present in what she was doing at the time. And she found that was really good at grounding her and bringing her back in and yeah, just sort of controlling those stress levels and keeping it calm. So yeah, she's an incredibly inspirational woman. And yet, fortunately, she's through that battle, and as she's actually since that talk, she's actually been starting to do a couple of talks around the region as well, and has been well received there as well. So yeah, there's some very strong women among us. If we can pop to the next one, thanks, Fee. So yeah, the weekend was a success. That event hosted 55 participants over 2 days and 1 night. They were from both the local area and surrounding areas, probably as far as Tamworth, which is only about 2 hours away. So yeah, but fairly widespread, the range of ages. We ended up with a couple of younger ones. So we started about 16 years old and went up to over 60 as far as participants went. So it appealed to all ages. The 2024 event that ran just a couple of months ago in September was booked out and with a waiting list following the success of the last event. So they will continue to run every year. The funds that were in excess from the event were put back into the community to support other local events and for some small infrastructure upgrades to the grounds. So it's working really well. Yeah, it's bringing money into the town. It supports obviously the local businesses that were hit by the drought, like the local sporting club at Upper Horton. Upper Horton, I probably should have included a little bit about Upper Horton. It's a little village and we're sort of in the middle of everywhere, I describe it as. We're sort of between Tamworth and Moree and between Inverell and Narrabri. We're kind of in the middle of that diamond, if you like. So we're a little bit from everywhere, but not too far away. But yeah, all we've really got there is the sporting club, which managed to hang on through COVID, managed to hang on through the drought, but events like this really keep it going. So on the Friday night, we didn't provide a meal on the Friday night. We got everyone to go to the club instead. So everyone arrived on Friday night, camped at the night, went to the club for tea. All alcohol that they wanted was purchased from the club. We also have a couple of girls before COVID, started up an events business in the area, so they did all the decorating of the hall and that sort of stuff for the meal. So yeah, we're trying to support local as much as we can. We might jump to the next slide. So the dinner was well attended with very positive feedback for both the dinner and overall weekend. Yet 2024 event, as I said, was fully booked out with a waiting list. We had a good range. Yeah, sponsors have started, actually some sponsors this year were starting to approach us for how they could help, how they could donate goods for goodie bags and things like that. So it is starting to get a bit of a reputation. But yeah, it's a great weekend. Everyone just liked, leaving all the responsibilities behind. They don't have to cook. They don't have to do anything. As you can see, the very old Upper Horton Hall has been done up by the event planners and it just made it a special night, made it all pretty, and they brought in tables and chairs and flowers for the tables, and we had beautiful food as well. So it was a really good night. And if we can flip to the next one, which I think we're getting to the end, Nellie. What are we most proud of? Those smiles. It was a really good weekend. Everyone had a lot of laughs, a lot of smiles. Yeah, knowing that we've provided them with happy memories, they've made new friends, they've strengthened old connections, made new connections, and, facing challenges on horseback as well. They're sort of, upgrading their skills and taking on challenges on horseback as well. So there's that advantage as well. Yeah, so I think, as Katie and Tom alluded to, those social interactions and building that social strength is so important, in times of drought. Like, you really need to know you've got that community support and community behind you. So, yeah. And the next slide. This is a fairly long one. Yeah, I think most of us are pretty aware of how the drought affects us. It's ironic. The Upper Horton region is actually known as a very safe area. There was 2 landholders who actually purchased in the Horton area just before the drought because it was such a reliable rainfall area and it was such a great place to buy. And we're actually hit harder here over the next couple of years than I think a lot of everywhere was hard hit. But yeah, I think we had a 7-inch rainfall in 2019, and our average rainfall is 28 inches. So we had a quarter of our annual rainfall. So it had a massive impact. Yeah, one of those landholders managed to hold on. The other one, unfortunately, had to sell up again and move on, which was really sad. Yeah, we lost people from the area, so we lost community members. Yeah, so it's so important to, you know, strengthen those ties and keep in touch and that sort of stuff. So, yeah, and hopefully when the next drought arrives, these the communities will be stronger, they will be more connected, and people will know there's always someone there to talk to and to connect with that's going through the same thing and understands where you're coming from. So, yeah, I think that's about it. Next slide. So, oh yeah, just contact details. So that's us, Upper Horton Ladies of the Valley. Yeah, so it's all volunteer-led, yeah, and supported by Northern Slopes Land Care Association for that event. So, yeah. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Shelley. Another good one. So, and this grant wasn't a terribly big grant. So it was really good to see that there was diversity in what was coming through in the applications. But also, Shelley, I take my hat off to you and the committee for opening those invitations to community members outside of just the clinic participants. I know what it's like when you've got, one of your mates in your friend group will ride, or two of your mates in your friend group will ride, but there'll be another 5 that don't, so it was really good to create those opportunities for those people to connect into those relationships and, and establish those foundations. So, no, that was really nice. And I love as well that you're getting sponsors approach you now. So how nice is that? Rather than knocking on everyone's door, to have them
it's really good.
See you. Yeah, well done. Well done on the momentum that you've been able to build with it as well. Good on you.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's a good committee, and they really do a good job. Everyone puts in 100% and more, and it's really good. So
no, good on you. Good on you. The next webinar will be Monday, the 7th of April. We brought this one forward. It was only October, our last session, but we wanted to bring it earlier. So, January, let's all just take a breath and have a bit of a break if we can. So the next one will be Monday, the 7th of April. Kelly will get invitations out to everybody closer to the time to get it in your diaries. But on behalf of all of the team here at FRRR and the Future Drought Fund team here, we just want to wish you all a safe and Merry Christmas. Thank you so much for your contribution to the program, to the evaluation of the program. Your voices are influencing so much thinking within the government. So, I just can't reiterate enough how open and receptive the department are to hearing what works best for you as a community. So what's happening in community, what influences you, what's the best way to support you. So that's something that we've been striving to influence that thinking for 25 years now within FRRR. So it's fabulous that we've got this program as a conduit to be able to do that. But again, thank you so much for all of your hard work. We look forward to celebrating with you. Stay safe over Christmas, and here's to some good constant weather that feeds our crops and our communities just the way we want it to. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you soon.